Magic items are an important part of your character's growth, almost as important as character levels. These items are the best for enterprising warlocks seeking to make their mark on the world, or those already at the height of their power. Starting with number 10, we have the Dark Shard Amulet from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This unassuming magic item is a simple fragment from your patron's home plane. As long as you're attuned to it, this amulet can act as your spellcasting focus and allows you to attempt casting a cantrip that you don't know from the Warlock spell list once per long rest on a successful DC 10 Arcana check. Now, it might not seem like much, and for a high-level Warlock, this is child's play. But for a Warlock just starting out, an extra cantrip can allow for utility that you might not expect. Let's say you're in a situation where you really need a guard to allow you through, but you expect combat soon, so none of the spellcasters in your group can afford to use a spell slot. One use of the Friend's cantrip later, and you're well on your way before anyone is the wiser. Perhaps you always take the Friend's cantrip, but you really need to grab some keys from outside of a prison cell that you found yourselves locked into. Mage Hand would be exceptionally useful in this situation, wouldn't it? Or maybe you got surrounded by a bunch of angry goblins and you're worried about your odds of making it to the next round. Maybe you don't have a very high AC, and even with disadvantage, you expect that most of them will hit you. Well then, a tactical Blade Ward can help you live long enough for your party to rescue you. And because this is a common tier magic item, there's a good chance your DM will let you have it fairly early on in your career, maybe as early as level 3. Favored by spies everywhere at number 9, we have the Ring of Mind Shielding from the Dungeons Master's Guide. This ring, while you're wearing it and attuned, it keeps people from reading your mind or magically determining your alignment or creature type, and it keeps you from being telepathically communicated with unless you allow it. This is very useful for a class whose entire existence is predicated on their pact with the patron that, very often, is something that might not be approved of much by society, such as a fiend or a great old one. Even an Archfey might have designs counter to the desires of society. Being able to hide that information from others is incredibly useful for someone who might not want their pack status known or broadcasted. In addition, you can use an action to make the ring invisible until you change it back, take it off, or die, meaning the ring is likely to go unnoticed by others and not be detected as the reason for your ability to resist all mind-reading magic. And if you die while wearing it, your soul enters the ring, making it easier to be resurrected later on and allowing you to telepathically communicate with whoever puts it on next, potentially one of your party members. Even after death, you still get to communicate until they resurrect you, letting you participate without making a new character, which is very underrated. All in all, a very useful item if you intend to spend any time lying. Flying and cackling madly in our next item, at number 8, we have the Broom of Flying from the Dungeons Master's Guide. This broom lets you fly at 50 feet around, or 30 feet if you and the objects on you weigh more than 200 pounds. You can also speak a command word to send it anywhere within 1 mile of you that you're familiar with, and another to make it return. First of all, the feminine version of Warlock is Witch, so a witch's broom is very evocative and appropriate. But even setting aside the thematic synergy, it also can allow you to cast your spells from high above the battlefield, unable to be targeted easily by all but other casters, archers, or flying enemies like dragons. This means with Eldritch Spear, you can be a good 200 feet above the battlefield, raining down destructive Eldritch blasts out of range of all but the most long-range magics or attacks. Even a longbow would be in its long-range increment at that point, rolling its attacks with disadvantage. You can also use its second ability to send it to collect an ally that's far from you, up to 1 mile distance away. And all of these features are available to you without needing to attune to the broom, making it excellent to go alongside several items that do require attunement. And at number 7, we have the Staff of Thunder and Lightning. This staff requires attunement, but for that cost, you get a magic quarterstaff that grants +2 attack and damage rolls. It also can use 5 different features once per dawn. An extra 2d6 lightning damage on a melee attack using the staff, including from a melee attack cantrip like Booming Blade, stunning on any melee attack with the staff unless the target makes a constitution save, firing a lightning bolt that's 5 feet wide, 120 feet long, that deals 96 lightning damage, but otherwise is like the lightning bolt spell, calling down a thunderclap that makes everyone but you in a 60-foot radius of you take 2d6 thunder damage and becoming deafened unless they make a con save. And the last option is both a lightning bolt and thunderclap at the same time. This may sound like it just gives you some extra spell options, which is pretty decent for the limited spell slots of the Warlock, but none of these features are considered a cast spell. They are all magical abilities, but none of them are spells. This means that if something is resistant to spells but not magical effects, it will not have resistance or advantage against these effects. For example, the anti-magic resistance feature was changed in Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse to only apply to spells. This indicates a design shift that use of this staff can capitalize on. In addition, none of these effects can be counterspelled. If you're fighting a fellow spellcaster with access to counterspell, this staff can dispatch them without giving the opportunity to disrupt you. Holding on to the number 6 slot until used, we have the Ring of Spell Storing. As the name suggests, it can store up to 5 levels of spells at a time, allowing them to be cast from the ring as if cast using the spell slot stored, using the bonuses or spell saving throw of the spellcaster who stored them. Coincidentally, the highest spell slot a warlock gets just happens to be 5th level, allowing this ring to function as a prepared slot for a warlock. You simply cast a spell into this ring that you expect to need, such as a Hellish Rebuke or Thunderstep. Then, until you need the spell, it's stored in the ring. Once you cast the spell that's stored, it goes away, freeing room for a new spell to take its place. Effectively, you get 1 more spell per day this way, so long as you get a short rest at some point to replenish the spell slot. Given that the Warlock maxes out at 4 spell slots, 1 more represents a pretty big increase, especially at lower levels when you may only have 2 slots to work with. Altogether, this item is very useful for a Warlock and a fundamental increase in power for them, more so than other spellcasters. Showing its true power at number 5, we have the Staff of Power from the Dungeons Master's Guide. So long as you're attuned to it, it acts as a magical quarterstaff with a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls. It also gives a +2 bonus to AC, to saving throws, and to spell attack rolls. Like most other staffs, it has a number of charges every day to spend on spells and get some of those charges back every day. Using those charges, you can cast one of 9 different spells, from Cone of Cold to Fireball, Global Invulnerability to Hold Monster, and more. This staff gives the single most number of spells as options to cast from it, in fact, which makes it very useful for a Warlock who may only be able to cast 5 or 6 spells per day, depending on how many short rests the DM allows them. And on average, this staff gives you 13 levels worth of spells per day to cast with. That's a lot of power. You also have the option on a successful melee attack using the staff to use a charge to add an extra 1d6 force damage to the attack. And if you're in a really dire situation, it has the built-in self-sacrifice option. If you break the staff over your knee or by smashing it on a solid surface, you have a 50-50 shot at being either hit by enough force damage to make your children feel it, or be thrown into a random plane of existence. Everyone else within 30 feet takes damage based on how close they were, with anyone in 10 feet probably not surviving either, unless they make a successful dexterity saving throw. This panic button is single use and ruins the staff, but it makes for one heck of an exit. For a stylish and powerful option, at number 4, we have the Jester's Mask from the Book of Many Things. While attuned to it, it can also be used as your spellcasting focus and gives you a +3 bonus to any spell attacks and spell saves that use Charisma, such as those from your Warlock class. In addition, if you get hit by an attack roll, you can use a reaction to effectively Misty Step and take no damage once per day. And if you're rolling an important roll and get a natural 1, you can change it to a 20 once per day. All of these add together to create a versatile item that really excels at getting you out of bad situations. If you get a nat 1 on a saving throw against a powerful disabling spell, like Hold Person or Dominate Person, you can instead get a natural 20 that will almost certainly succeed. If you get attacked and really need to be out of there, you can use a reaction to teleport up to 30 feet away. And what's better is that the teleport can take you up a cliff or down to a lower floor, as long as it's within 30 feet. It can even take you behind cover, all of which will save you from further attacks. And I haven't even gotten to the fact that it's a +3 to both spell attacks and spell saves, which stacks with other bonuses, giving you even more of a bonus if you're using other similar items. The normal maximum your spell save can become is 19. A flat bonus to attack rolls and spell saves is incredibly important in ensuring that your spells have an effect on your foes, especially at higher levels. But even at lower levels, the sooner you can get any bonus to saves and attacks, the better. This bonus also doesn't require that the object be used as a focus to get this bonus. It can stack with other similar bonuses from magic items. And at number 3, keeping mages safe since a D&D 2nd edition, we have the Robe of the Archmage, found in the Dungeons Master's Guide. While the name of the item might make you think it's meant for just wizards or sorcerers, this robe is anything but. There are 3 versions, one corresponding to each alignment, good, neutral, or evil. So long as you have the correct alignment, you can attune to it and get powerful benefits. While wearing the robe, you get advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Your spell save and spell attack bonus go up by 2, and so long as you aren't wearing armor, your AC becomes 15 plus your dex modifier. The armor bonus this gives you is 2 higher than the mage armor spell, which means you don't need the Armor of Shadows invocation for as long as you have this armor, freeing you up to select invocations you would rather have instead. The bonus to spell attacks and saves stacks with other similar bonuses, meaning you can make your spells almost impossible to save against for all but the most powerful of enemies. And advantage on saving throws against spell and magical effects not only insulates you from spellcastings of a Lich, but also from effects of a Red Dragon's Breath Weapon, making it much more likely you'll survive 18d6 fire damage from an adult Red Dragon or the Finger of Death spell from a powerful spellcaster. Proving reading isn't just for nerds, at number 2, we have the Tome of Leadership and Influence from the Dungeons Master's Guide. One of the simplest magic items on this list. To make use of this tome's magic, you have to spend a full 48 hours and under a week studying the book to get a permanent +2 bonus to Charisma. And don't worry, if you already had 20, this book lets you increase your Charisma by 2 no matter what. This means after reading this book, you can have up to a 22 charisma score, giving you a serious edge over those who are normally limited to a 20. If your charisma wasn't 20 when you read it, don't worry, the increase to your maximum is permanent, which means you can still increase it to 22 later. And this bonus is permanent too. It cannot be lost by any means aside from a DM feint. This increases all skills governed by charisma, like intimidation or deception, by +1. Making it a bit easier to influence others. More important, this gives all of your spell attack rolls and spell save throws a +1 bonus. And if you took Agonizing Blast, it also applies to the damage increase it provides to each of your rays from Eldritch Blast. This item can really up your game when it comes to use of your charisma score, giving you the edge you need to beat out your opponents. And finally, at number 1, we have the only rod you'll ever need as a Warlock, the Rod of the Pact Keeper from the Dungeons Master's Guide. Unequivocally the best magic item for Warlocks, this item comes in 3 versions, and provides the bonuses to spell attack rolls and saving throws so long as you're holding it while attuned. It also lets you spend an action once per long rest to get a Warlock spell back. This means that this is effectively a ring of spell storing that doesn't store a specific spell, and also gives you somewhere from a +1 to a +3 to your spell attacks and spell saves. Don't forget also, cantrips are considered spells for these bonuses, so your Eldritch Blast gets that bonus to hit. If you really kit out your Eldritch Blast with invocations like Agonizing Blast and Eldritch Spear, an improved chance to hit means more consistent damage. And having 1 extra spell slot to work with every day is nothing to scoff at either. It means even in the midst of combat with no spells left, you can spend 1 action to get your highest level spell slot back, to a maximum of 5th level. And since it takes your action, if the spell you want to cast takes your bonus actions, such as a Misty Step for an escape, you can still cast it. Plus, this can be used outside of combat. So if you don't have time for a short rest, you can top up between encounters in order to give yourself that 1 more spell that could be the difference between taking your foe out before they can take you out.